Okay, thank you all for coming. We're continuing with discussing the advantages of Bitachon, how to get Bitachon, what you do with Bitachon, what does Bitachon do. And the Gra, like we saw in the Gra said that Bitachon is the aside of Kol Torah Kula. Kol Torah Kula is to bring you to Bitachon. That's the Gra in Mishlei. We're going to see a bigger chiddush from the Beis Halevi in a second. So Bitachon is so important. We
can't get to Bitachon without Torah. The way to get to Bitachon is through Torah, or it's a side. It's a side thing. It's beside.
To learn Torah is to bring you to Bitachon. Now, does it mean a person who doesn't have Torah, lo amar or it's chassid?
Can't have Bitachon without Torah.
Of course, we've seen simple people without. The reason that Kosh Baruch Hu gave Torah to Klal Yisrael, the Gemara says, was that they should reach Bitachon, because it's a belief in the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Now, do you need Torah in order to get Bitachon? So by the Hasidim, there's a lot of Maisim, of very, very simple folk who had a tremendous amount of Bitachon, and it worked. There was a Maisa with the Oyev Yisrael, that there was an innkeeper who used to give out brachas, and they were Mekuyim. He's a simple guy, he ran he used to sell wine and schnapps, and an innkeeper. So he went to visit him, and he was afraid the guy's a kishuf macher. What's going on over here? So he stayed by him, and he was a very simple person. In those days, Amoritz, like it wasn't a Talmud Chacham, didn't know anything. So the Oyev Yisrael. So afterwards the Abdurov, the Oyev Yisrael is the Abdurov. So he called him over and he says, "What's going on with you? Every time you give a bracha, it works. What happened?" So he said that he didn't have a parnasa, and the landlord, those days was landlords, and the landlord was threatening to close down his business. And if they closed down the business, if you didn't pay the rent, then they threw you in jail for 10 years. And jail was not like, the 5-star hotel that they have today. So his wife got nervous. Says, "Go out and find a partner. It's good. Go out and find a partner who to give you some money so you can buy skira and you can." So he went out in the field. He puts up his eyes to Kodesh Baruch Hu and he says, "Ribono Shel Olam, I don't want a partner. So therefore, you be my partner. I will go 50-50. He made a deal with Ribono Shel Olam, and then he went back and he told his wife, "I found a very, very rich partner. He's going to be my shutef, and he's very rich, and he's going to take care of me." And from that day on, everything started clopping, and his business started flourishing, and he gave 50% to Meiser, not 10%, not 20%. Whatever.
Don't ask
You're a Talmud Chacham, you know Tekana Susha. He was a simple person. All I know is
I was asking maybe I could do that too now. Like I could,
Well, now that you know it.
Only if you don't have enough money.
That's the case. You probably just
Wait, one sec.
the discussion.
Once you know it, you can't do it. You have to.
Okay, don't tell people. I got it.
He was a simple person. He took it literally. 50-50.
Partner.
Give 30%.
And he saw that, and all of a sudden, because he was a partner with Ribono Shel Olam, it was a tremendous emunah for him. And he had to Bitachon with Kodesh Baruch Hu, that Kodesh Baruch Hu was going to, I'll do my deal and he'll do his deal. That's Bitachon. So all of his bracha started being Mekuyim. He said he was able, because he was a shutef with the Ribono Shel Olam. that's what he told the Abder Rav. Ever since I made that deal, and all of a sudden, whatever I say, when I give a person a bracha, so the Abder Rav says, "Give me a bracha," and he says, "Oh, the kid said." So yes, Bitachon works on a simple person, but derech of Klal Yisrael is derech of Torah, because lo Amaoris Chassid in general they do funny things. Amaoris does funny things, and it's not that when a Talmid Chacham learning the Torah, learning the Midrashim, and it ingrains in your mind the Amunah and in the Kodesh Baruch Hu. What's Bitachon? Bitachon is the other side of the coin of Amunah. Amunah is the theory. That's what Amunah is, and Bitachon is Lamaisa. Doing it. It's very nice to have Amunah. I believe in the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Now, go ahead and do it. That's Bitachon. Anyway, so we have in this past week's parsha, Vayishlach, Vayira Yaakov Ma'ov, Vayetzer Lo. Yaakov just finished off with Lavan, and after, 22 years? 20 years he had been away. 20 years he had been away after running away from Esav, and now he's going back into Eretz Yisrael, and he's afraid of Esav, his brother, because he had stolen the brothers, and Esav wants to kill him. And Yaakov was afraid. Ma'od, he was afraid. Not just afraid, he was ma'od afraid, very afraid. Vayetzer Lo, and he was oppressed. From the word Yetzar, Tsar, like you feel pressure. That's Yetzar Lo, Netzar. He felt a tremendous. He was suffered from it. So the Meforshim take Yaakov to task why he was afraid. I'm not going to go into the normal Mahalchim, the Taina on Yaakov. You had a Havtocha. I mean, the Groy has the Kash. You had a Havtocha from Kodesh Baruch Hu, by the Sulam, right? 20 years ago, when you saw the Sulam, so Kodesh Baruch Hu promised you that He's going to protect you, and you're going to go back to Eretz Yisrael, and everything's going back. And then in Lova's house, it says, "Go back to Eretz Yisrael, and everything's going to be fine. I'm protecting you." So you had a Havtocha from a Kodesh Baruch Hu. What was he afraid of? Look in the Rashi, and then the Groy has a whole Mahalach. I'm doing a different Mahalach right now. The Medrash has a different Mahalach. This is very interesting. Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. He says Yaakov sent Malachim. He sent messengers with all the presents to Esav to placate him. He wanted to see if if he can calm him down. And they came back and said he's coming back with Arba Me'osish, 400 men. He had a whole big army of mercenaries, bloodthirsty bandits, and he was petrified. He was petrified. So the Medrash takes Yaakov to task. Listen to this. It says, Machzik ba'oznei kelev. It says in the Pasuk in Mishlei. Machzik ba'oznei kelev, oiver u'misarav al riv loy loy. You see a dog, big bulldog, a German shepherd, sleeping on the side of the road, and you go up and you start pulling its ears. Well, you just woke it up and you're in trouble. You got involved in something. If you would have passed by, you wouldn't have had a problem. Now you got involved in a problem because it's a riv lo lo. That wasn't your fight. You picked the fight with the bulldog by pulling its ears. Why'd you do that for? So,
is it Shina on Yaakov?
Yes.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Shmuel Bar Nachman. I'll give you a mushal. So you got a mafia, the head of the mafia.
Which fight you went into?
The head of the mafia was sleeping on the side of the road, and you come along and you say, hey, guy, wake up! This is a dangerous place. The mafia's here. They're looking for people. right? So he wakes up and he says, "Oh, thank you." Boom. Right? And he mugs you. You know, why'd you wake him up for? Right? Says, "What are you doing? I tried to say to you, I'm the mafia that you're afraid of. What'd you wake me up for? I'll give it to you for waking me up." So says the Medrash. Said the Medrash, Esav was sleeping. Esav didn't even know that Yaakov was coming back. Esav didn't know that Yaakov was coming back. We're going to see later. Not only did he not know that Yaakov was coming back, but we'll see a few psukim later. It says Devorah, Esha's Menekes Rivka, came and she died in Alan Shvus. What was she coming for? She had a message from Rivka that Esav has calmed down, you can come home now after 20 years. And later, a few psukim later in the Parsha. So Rivka was sending a message to Yaakov but he didn't get it yet. So if he would have known,
tweet.
no, didn't have WhatsApp in those days, right?
Yeah.
So you never know. You don't know that you know. He just assumed it was like 20 years ago when Esav was furious at him for stealing the brachos. Esav was sleeping, just tiptoe into Eretz Yisrael. And you just walk past Esav, and it's it'll be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And instead, he woke up Esav. Why? Because he was afraid. What's going on over here? So Pashup Shad, according to this, is that you don't really know what's really going on. It could be if you have Bitachon, then it could be things have changed. And behind the scenes, there's no problem, and you're building it up in your mind that you think it's a problem, and it's not really a problem. There's a parish on the Medrash called the Eitz Yosef. He lived about 150, 200 years ago, in the 1840s.
Where?
Huh?
Where?
He's a Polish, I'm not sure. He's a standard.
Where could it be? Europe? Or where could it be?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying specifically. Lita is in Polish.
I don't know exactly his.
We'll see what it
was.
says. We'll decide.
But he's standard parish on the Medrash. Most of the Medrash rabbis have the parish Eitz Yosef. So he was big enough that they in the Vilna Medrash Rabbah they decided to put him in. So he must have been pretty authoritative,
Yeah,
right? So he says this is a marshal to the mafia guy, the Arke Liston. It says Sarah Gazlonim. So he says a very big yisoid that we have to know. Al Yedei Pachad Yaakov Min Esav, the fact that Yaakov was petrified, was afraid. Petrified. How do I know it's petrified? Because it says Yiri Yaakov Ma'od. The Torah doesn't use the word Ma'od that often. He was petrified of Esav. That means he was scared. Because he was scared, Nis'oira the koyrech agvura bo. That was Ma'oira the koyrech agvura into Esav, and gave Esav the koyrech now that he was able to attack Yaakov, and now he really had something to be afraid of. She'ilule pachtoi, if he had not been afraid, lo ha'miskaber bo koyach hazu, this would not have happened. Esav would not have had. There was Min Shemayim. They gave. There's a whole mahalach in Shemayim. Everything that happens down here is a reflection of something going on in Shemayim, and we influence the Shemayim. And the Shemayim comes down and the Elchanan Wasserman said. Elchanan Wasserman said during as we were leading up to World War II, when it was getting very, very bad in Europe, and a lot of people were making Hafganas against the Nazis, and that got them even more angry. It says when they made a march against the Nazis in New York, and Hitler he got furious about it, and he got even more angry and wanted to kill out more Jews. So Elchanan Wasserman, so they asked Elchanan Wasserman, what should we do? He says, we have to daven. Fighting the Nazis is not the Eitzah. It's like what's happening down here is like a picture window in a store, and in Europe, so they had a fruit and vegetable store. You don't put fruit and vegetables inside in the window of the store. You put plastic fruit and vegetables in the window of the store. They're fake. They're fake. It's a representation of what's going on in the store, but it's really a fake. Mannequin is a fake. It's just to give you an idea of what's happening inside the store, what they're really selling. So Olam Hazeh is just a fake. It's a representation of what's happening upstairs. And upstairs, the Tsar of Edom, which was Hitler, he was Edom, was being disoiver because of what's happened, and it was showing itself down here. So if we are misgaber on ourselves, we do tefillah and we do tshuva. I won't go into what was going on in Europe. They hardly anybody did tefillahs. There was mostly secularists. The Jewish nation was going very, very far to the left in secularism, and even though they dressed frum, everybody dressed frum, but they were secularists inside, in their minds, and they didn't daven. They just talk politics. They talk politics the whole day. Like, unfortunately, that's what's happening today. We're talking politics the whole time instead of being mechazik and learning and being mechazik and tefillah. If you want to fight the Arabs, you want to fight the leftist government. So have asifas of tefillah, say tillah, increase your learning, add an extra hour of daf yomi, and then halacha, and if we mechazik ourselves in our Yiddishkeit, then they won't have koach over. It's just a representation of what's happening upstairs. That's all. So that's what he says. Whatever happens down here is just he's miskaber the koyach v'zel nevak imo sar shel Esav. That's why the sar shel Esav came to fight with him. If his bitachon hoya chazak, if he would have had a strong bitachon, he would have been mevatel the koyach of Esav upstairs, and then he's machnia the ra, and Esav can't do anything to him. If Esav doesn't have any koyach upstairs, he can't do anything to us.
Yaakov did three things. He sent the door and davened, he prepared for war. So he's saying those are the three. That was plan B.
Plan B.
That was already all.
Plan
that
A
was
should
plan B.
have gone straight to Yitzhak.
It was all a result of his being afraid.
Right. Plan A was having
Go straight to Yitzhak.
The bitachon was enough to crush Esau.
If he would have had bitachon, yeah. Of course, he didn't have the proper bitachon. The fact that he had planned for the milchama on his madrega.
Right.
Again, we have to be careful.
Yeah.
We have to be careful. There's a rajba by Hilchos medicine, Hilchos refuah. So there's, everybody quotes the Ramban. If we had the proper bitachon, we wouldn't need any medicine. Chizkiyahu Melech, he hid the Sefer. Shlomo Melech wrote the Sefer Refuas, and if you looked in the Sefer, you learned how to deal with all the illnesses, and he hid it, and that people should have bitachon. The Ramban says, if you have bitachon, you have a promise from the Kodesh Baruch Hu, nobody's going to get sick. So why do we get sick? Because we don't have the proper bitachon. So there are a lot of people, some people take it literally. They say, even today, I'm not going to go to the doctor. I'm not going to take my vaccinations. I'm not. And they get there. I'll have bitachon. It's a fake bitachon. The Rashba, he's a Talmud of Ramban. He knew the Ramban, the Rashba. And he says, that's not for us. That was in the Bayis Rishon. These are the previous generations. You have Yechidei Skula who were able to do this. I mentioned the Meister with the Gra, and he got sick, and they brought in the doctor, and even the Pope in Italy, in the Rome, in the Pope in Italy, in Rome, believes in me more than he believes in Yoshka. So the Gross said to him, even I believe in you more than I believe in Yoshka.
So Yashav had the biggest cardiologist
Yeah,
in the world
today.
from Texas. And they said to him, he's the Jewish Pope. He said, okay, so I'll come to Israel.
That's, yeah, but you see, he went to the tops.
15 years.
He went to the tops. I have a whole big mimer. If you have a standard illness, a flu, whatever it is, you can go to the regular doctors. You don't have to spend. Some people spend thousands of dollars on always getting the best doctors. You can use regular medicine, regular medical.
Intervention.
The medical doctors, regular doctors for the standard doctors, the Kupat Cholim doctors. So just for the simple things. If you have something serious, so then you go to the top. Then it's because they say the Rav Scheinberg says the fact that you see he has a slocha. You have a certain doctor, he is the top, he's being matzliach, that means the malach refoil is always with him. So that's where you want to be. You want to be with the malach refoil. Why is he Zeicha? That's a different side. But you go to the top for the serious things. That's how they got there. All the people along the way that until that they did their experiments on. So anyway.
The Rav mentioned that the problem is Bitachon. So it wasn't problem in Muna, is the practical applications. What's the?
Bitachon means you're calm.
No, I'm saying this case. He
Yes, Bitachon means you're calm.
That means that he had.
He wasn't calm. He was petrified.
Okay, but he had the proper Muna though.
Of course, he had a moon. He believed in the Rebbeinu Shalom.
So he,
look at what this is.
All if you had Shlav base was the problem. Within Shlav base, you had two.
At a Sulam Yaakov, right? Sulam Yaakov, and he worked 7 years with Rachel, with Lavan. And he spoke to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. He had nevuah from a Kodesh Baruch Hu. He saw Malachim, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu came to him at the time of the Sulam. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu came to him right before he was about to run away from Lavan. He says, "Go." So he was a Navi. And Afal P came. That's in the practical aspect. The Chavos Halavav says, "What's the measuring stick if you have Bitachon? Are you calm?" Menuchas hanefesh. If a problem comes, and now there's some people that
Some people come because they're dumb.
That's right. Some people are dumb, or some people just have it. They're all right. What else is new? That's the nature. I'm talking about a person who takes things seriously. So if he's calm, Rav Scheinberg was always calm. He worked on himself. Rav Scheinberg worked on him. He was a takif. Rav Scheinberg was a tzal, but he was always calm. And he took things, he worked on his bitachon. It was a very, very big Bible bitachon. But if you're going along your merry way, and all of a sudden something happens, and you all of a sudden, you tighten up, and you can't sleep, and you're nervous, and you're jittery, and you're worried, what's going to be? But that's not calm. That's not menuchas nefesh. There's an issue in
Bitachon.
It's
Not Muna. Bitachon.
Right.
I believe in the Kodesh Baruch Hu, but I'm afraid. Yeah.
I'm very calm. People piss me off, but I'm calm.
If you're walking down a dark street at night, and out all of a sudden from behind a bush, a dog runs in front of you. You can't even see him; just see a black thing running in front of you, and it gives a big bark. What are you jumping for? Kodesh Baruch was protecting you, isn't he? Oh,
It's an instinct.
it's an instinct.
Just you brought that up.
There's a difference.
What about irrational phobias or like something like I have an irrational phobia towards cats. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny big cat. It makes no sense to me.
We have everything.
That's just a mental illness.
All these
Like,
things
is that
are
okay?
in the head. People have jukim in the head.
That's
It's a quirk. It's a quirk you
Is
have.
that
in
a
the head.
chesed on bitachon?
That's not.
Or is it just something it's gonna like in me? We're
We're getting sidetracked. I'm not going to be able to finish. But there's a sefer. The name skips him right now. there's a saying that says, look, from the time that you were born, first of all, you're born with a personality. Everybody's born with a personality. I told you, like I have 11 kids, each one with a different personality. Same parents, same environment, same house. Each one is totally and absolutely different. So you're born with a different neshama. On top of that neshama are all the...
Totally agree with that.
On top of that neshama are your life experiences. So what happens if the neurologist, as you're growing, so your brain is wiring itself. You come with a potential, very loosely wired brain. It's very, very few brain neurons. They're there, and the potential in the DNA is the potential to grow neurons. So as you grow, so the brain channels and the brain pathways and the neurons and all the different parts of the brain, they're slowly developing, and you develop a personality. Now, within that personality, so maybe somewhere when you were 8 years old or 5 years old, a cat scared you, and you took it really hard, and so even though you've totally forgotten about it, but it's still there, and every time you see a cat, it triggers it off, and you don't know why, but you're afraid of the cats. You don't know.
There's a patch.
It's irrational.
There's a patch on it, but it's not. It's still
Yeah,
there.
yeah. You control it, but it's still there. You have it. It's like a wound that's still there, and every once in a while it acts up.
Sometimes
Can't
people
get rid
take
of
it
They
too
have
far.
updates in the computer, right? They have an update, but the old
old
error
crash.
is still there.
Right.
They just patched it.
Right.
And sometimes people take it really extreme. People start telling me stories that they did a whole diagnostic with someone and they figure out when the mother was pregnant, cause it fell on them and cause of.
Okay. I'm not going into
You're
that.
saying it's not.
I'm not going into that. Wait. There's something to it. The question is not the way to handle it. It's the fact that the Goyim came up with that mahalach doesn't mean it's not true. It just means I'm saying it's not necessarily the way to handle it. A person now the Kiddush of Yiddishkeit, and they've developed this. They see this now. There's a science in psychology. You know, Tony Robbins publicized it. You know, popularized it. NLP. You know, neurological linguistic programming. Right. It's a way of self-hypnosis, self-brainwashing, and you work on yourself. It's Pashat. What's Musar? Is you decide what you want to think. What we usually do is our emotions influence us, and according to what I think naturally, I act without even thinking about it, and I just act in a habitual way, according to whatever comes into my head. What we are realizing now is that my brain, I can control my heart, and I can program it to think differently. And that's what the psychologist can do that. So we have to do that through Musar. That's exactly what Musar does. It's programming. You decide what you want to think. You decide. Revolva says you decide how you want to. Revolva says for all the different situations, you have certain situations which are reoccurring. You know, the script reoccurs. It's the same program, a different scene. Like, you know, the same TV program repeats itself over and over and over and again. You know, you meet people and you have, you know, they react to you in the same fashion, and you react in the same fashion with the same script. It's a script. So Revolva says, change the script. It's a video. It's a video going on in your head. Change the script and repeat it in your head over and over and over again until it becomes your natural habit, and you can reprogram yourself. And that's what Bitachon is. So when I get these attacks, you know, on me from my business, you know, from the boss, or, you know, from the government, you know, I get attacked, you know, or by my neighbors or whatever it is. I call it attacked. You know, you feel threatened. So it's over and over and over again. Musar tells you, repeat over and over again, and develop a menuchas nefesh. Nobody can hurt you. unless the Rebbeinu Shalom has decided. So this person is not hurting you. The Rebbeinu Shalom is in control. I have nothing to worry about. So he said that if he would have had Bitachon, this is a bigger chiddush. We got sidetracked with Bitachon about my reaction. The Eitz Yosef's chiddush is that in the world my Bitachon works. The Bitachon is a koyach in everything going on, of course, because who's manipulating the situation? The Rebbeinu Shalom. So if I have Bitachon, the Kodesh Baruch Hu will manipulate the situation that it works out well. So Bitachon is first of all working on myself, that I should have the proper mental attitude and develop the Menuchas and Nefesh the Chavos HaLevavos talks about. And secondly, the Eitz Yosef is telling you, and this is the Gra, this is a lot of Gedolim say the same thing. We'll see in a second. This
changes the
not
only in myself,
not only in myself, but only in the world situation around me. The world situation around me.
Just to clarify, the Bitachon is not that it will work out well in the way that I see it working out well. It's going to work out well.
I don't want to go down that road. That is Machloikis the Gra and the Chazon Ish, and everybody has kindness on the Chazon Ish. Everybody quotes the Chazon Ish. It's not up to me to go against the Chazon Ish, but I heard from Rav Scheinberg not like the Chazon Ish. Yes, according to the Gemara.
What does Chazon say? What's for the knowledge?
Bitachon is not that it's going to work out well. Your Navi is going to work out well.
Who says what's well?
I mean, what's good?
What
You think it's good?
Well.
That's what Chazon Ish says, and the Gra says.
So what
is Bitachon for the Chazon Ish? It's not that it's
I rely on a Kodesh Baruch Hu. He will do whatever is good for me.
That's Chazon Ish.
That's Chazon Ish.
And Rav Scheinberg said.
He brings his rife. The problem is that it's against the Mefurish Gemara. I discussed this Gemara with Hillel. Hillel came into the city and he heard screaming and says, "I'm positive, Muvtachani, that this is not my house." So the Chazon Ish learns Pshat. He says the Chazon Ish says Pshat is not that that nothing bad is going to happen to me. Pshat is that I've trained my family to take everything well. They wouldn't be reacting so violently to a bad situation. It's a Mefurish Gra. The problem with that Chazon Ish is the Mefurish Gra says not like that. The Gra says the opposite. He says, don't say it's that I trained my family to react well. I mean, it's also good, very important to train your family to react. Call the other Rav on the Kavod. He says that everything that happens is good. This is not in my house. That didn't happen to me because I know that I'm a Baal Bitachon. That didn't happen in my house. That's Mefurish Gra. Now there's a problem with that. There's a problem with that. And the editor of the Perish Gra on the Gemara. This is on a Gadata. This is the Imri Noyam on the Gemara in Brachas and Daf Samach. And it's Mefurish Gra. But the editor is Shmuel Malson. He wrote a Sefer Emunah Bitachon. Hashgacha Pratis and Emunah. Hashgacha Pratis and Emunah. Based on he was a Talmud of the Gra, so he explained the Gra Shita in Emunah Bitachon. And he says, I have a problem. We see people, tzaddikim. It didn't happen like that. They met a lot of tzoros. So how do we answer that? So he's forced to say there was a flaw in their Bitachon. Now we see from Yaakov there are tzaddikim who have a flaw in their Bitachon. So it's possible to say that. It's not a chas v'sholom. We like to say tzaddikim are perfect. You got this Hasidic Rebbe, or you got the Gadol Ador. I don't want to mention names, and they're perfect, and nothing. Everything they do is 100%. There's nobody perfect. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't perfect. That's the godless of the Torah. Avigdor Miller says that's how we know the Torah is true, because we're the only nation that the prime Navi, the father of our nation, Moshe Rabbeinu, is imperfect, and we point out his imperfections in the Torah. Nobody else does it. By the New Testament, Yoshka is 100% perfect. He's son of God. He can't do anything wrong. So it's a fake. We know that the Torah is true because we point out his imperfections. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were our forefathers. They are the patriarchs of the Yiddish nation. And they're not perfect. And the Chazal point out that each one of them, where they made mistakes. Because we're human beings and we're put into this world, and by nature we are imperfect. Yaakov made a mistake. How can I say that? Because the Chazal pointed out he was afraid. He had no right to be afraid. Chas v'sholom, but now we have to answer it up. Again, so Victor Miller says whenever we meet see flaws in personalities as great as Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and Moshe Rabbeinu, and all these great people, we have to realize that the Torah is looking at them with a microscope. Torah is looking at them with a microscope. They were perfect. As far as we are concerned, they were perfect. As far as the Kodesh Baruch was looking at them, he took a microscope and he found some minute imperfections, and on their level, their madrega, what they were expected to be more than perfect, like 100% perfect. If we're going,
it says Vayiru Me'od. It doesn't say
לא, הוא לא מאוד במושגים שלו. במושגים שלו.
Is anyone as toxic, or is it fair to say that it lacks of bitachon?
I'm sorry?
Is it fair to say that, let's say Yaakov's lack of bitachon, where he had, could the nakuda of that, the shorish of that could be a lapse in his own confidence in what he was doing was the right thing, that he was dovek to the plan. Meaning,
Okay,
because
so
I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be, so it makes sense to me.
There's another mahalach.
Because if a person's 100% sure that he's doing the right thing, then of course he's going to have 100% bitachon.
I was about to tell you Reb Chaim Shmulevitz's mahalach based on this medrash. Okay? So this is Shivim Panim LaTorah.
Right.
Torah is like a rock. You have a big rock. It's a unit. It's one unit. But if you take a sledgehammer and you smash it, it smatters in all directions to 1,000 pieces. That's Torah. You can learn it this way, you can learn it that way. It's all true. It's all different ways of looking. You put it back together again, you have to take all the pieces, put it back together again, and then get one unit. But it's made up of Shivim Panim LaTorah. So it's all true, but there are different aspects of it. Shivim Panim, different sides. Right? Sides. So there's a Sephorah, there's a Gra. There's a Gra in by Havdalah. Anyway, so there's a difference between the Amunah of Avraham Avinu and the Amunah of Yitzchak. Yitzchak was a grandson of Avraham Avinu. We don't find Yaakov. I'm sorry, Yaakov. Yaakov was a grandson of Avraham Avinu. We don't find Avraham Avinu getting afraid. Adarabah. He went against the five malachim, and he went against NATO. He went against NATO. They were basically NATO, right? And he went against them. Not right? And he went against them, and he won. He wasn't afraid. Boom. How did he have the guts? Because he had pure bitachon. The Amen B'Hashem v'Yachshavel Lo Tzedakah. He had pure amunah in the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu was Yachshavel Lo Tzedakah. So it says Tidanemes Yaakov v'Chesed li'Avram. Avram Avinu was he saw the whole world as Chesed. He saw Kodesh Baruch Hu as Chesed. He looked at the world and he saw the Chesed of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. So his amunah in a Kodesh Baruch Hu is all based on Chesed. So it doesn't matter if I'm deserving of it or not deserving of it. Kodesh Baruch Hu is the source of Chesed. So if the source of Chesed, it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. The Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to take care of me. I can have pure bitachon no matter what. So he just went in. I'm doing what I have to do. If for Kodesh Baruch Hu, I'm fighting God's wars, and he had Bitachon, and he wasn't afraid of anything. That was Avraham Avinu, and his whole life he was the Kivshin Eish. Nothing phased him. Paro, nothing phased him. Avimelech, nothing phased him. The five Malachim, nothing phased him. And Yaakov was afraid. What was he afraid of? Because so there's the Sephorna, by the Chalom, the dream of the Sulam Yaakov. So after the Sulam, he says, if a Kodesh Baruch Hu will take care of me and give me just basics, a beged lilbosh and lechem lechol, and then the li lelokim, and then the Kodesh Baruch Hu will be to me elokim. We know there's a difference between the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yud Kei Vav Kei is the Shem of Rachamim, Midas HaChesed. That's the source. Each Shem is a different aspect of the Kodesh Baruch Hu's Hanhoga. So the Yud Kei Vav Kei is more of the act, is Hashem himself, is the Midah of Chesed. Elokim is the Midah of Din. Din is how he handles this world. He says, if a Kodesh Baruch Hu takes care of me, and we see he did take care of me for 20 years. He won against Lovin. In Lovin Garta V'Tayag Nisi Shemarti, and he came out in Nosha Gadol. So, V'yi li lelokim. He's going to be lelokim. I'm going to be noyeg with him. He should be noyeg with me, Midas Hadin. Now, Midas Hadin is very, very severe. You have to be perfect. If you're not perfect, you don't get it. You're not deserving. And that's why he was afraid, because maybe on his madrega of accepting Kodesh Baruch Hu as a hanhaga Midas Hadin, maybe there was some flaw in. He was there for 20, with love, and maybe he stole a paperclip. I don't know. On his madrega, you steal a paperclip. Come on, a son-in-law in his fair's house. You find all sorts of things in his pocket. So it's natural. And he says, "What? Do you find the shoelace by me?" You told Lovin. He said, "Perfect." He was afraid maybe he had slipped up somewhere, and he wasn't perfect. And since he had accepted the Kodesh Baruch Hu beside Midas Hadin, therefore he didn't have Bitachon. That's the way the Gruel learns Pshat. Based on the Sforno.
That's a nice one. Then there's a consequence of everything you do. There's no chesed over here.
That's the way I learned Pshat in Rabbi Akiva. That's the way I learned Pshat in Rabbi Akiva. By Rabbi Akiva, how did Rabbi Akiva die such a horrible death? Rabbi Akiva was the Moshe Rabbeinu. Huh?
Such a great death.
Terrible, great. It was a terrible death. They stripped all, they
said last time he prepared it as the whole.
Of course he prepared himself, but
natural eyes. It's a terrible death.
So the Malachei Asharis, when he was being tortured to death, they say Zu Torah v'Zu Schayra. The torture. That's how he's got to die. Let him die like Avraham Avinu, and close his eyes and go to sleep for return to his forefathers, and he had to be tortured to death. The 10 martyrs, they tortured him more than the other 10 martyrs. The Aseri Harugi Malchus, it was terrible. So the Malchei Ashoris were screaming to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Zu Torah v'Zu Schayra, Shtoik, Kach Ola b'machshavosai b'fonai. What does it mean? B'kach Ola b'machshavosai b'fonai. So there's a shlor. He says Pshat. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he wanted to create the world of Midas Hadin. So it says, Bereshis bara Elokim. Then he saw that the world is not it has no kiyum. It can't last with Elokim. It just can't do it. Can't last with Elokim. So he was mitzaref. He joined Midas HaRachamim together with Midas Hadin. Said Hashem Elokim. And right after that first pasuk, all the other times it mentions Hashem name in my separation is Hashem Elokim. Yud Kei Vav Kei Elokim. But the first time it mentions one Brias Oilam was Elokim. Kach Ola b'machshava. This world is people can't handle Midas Hadin. Therefore, I know that the world cannot be Mekuyim with Midas Hadin, but that wasn't my machshava. In my machshava, the machshava Kodesh Baruch Hu is an olam, is a real olam. There's an olam called the machshava of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's a place. We don't understand it, but it's a reality that is still in existence today. Up there in what? Shemay Shemayim Eretz. What's Shemay Shemayim? The Shemayim. What's Shemay Shemayim? There's something above the Shemayim. Yeah.
The 7, there's no 7.
There's 7, and then you got the 3. You got the 7 meters, and then you got the 3, and then you got the Keser. The Keser is the highest. The Atzilus. You got in the olam of Atzilus, the highest level. There's Midas Hadin. Midas Hadin is total perfection. And Rabbi Akiva had reached the ultimate level of Adam Arishon, which Adam Arishon was supposed to be on that level, but he blew it. And Rabbi Akiva became as great as Moshe Rabbeinu. He was a nitzitz of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu looked at him and he didn't understand his Torah. He says, he's bigger than me. Moshe Rabbeinu saw in a nevuah, Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva had reached that level, Madrega, so Kodesh Baruch Hu said, Kach ol b'machshavosai, before. This is my machshava, what the world is supposed to be. And therefore he's getting purified to go up to that olam of purity. That's all. Okay. So this is what Rav Chaim Shmulevitz says. Rav Chaim Shmulevitz brings down this medrash about Yaakov Avinu, that he mixed himself into he opened up a Pandora's box. He should have had Bitachon, and since he didn't have Bitachon, so he says there's you have the ability, this is a chiddush, you have a problem in front of you. You have a problem in front of you, you have a business problem. Again, you have to be careful. We are not on the level of Bitachon not to do anything. Pure Bitachon, what would be not to do anything, right? The Alter from Navardik, he worked on himself of Bitachon that he didn't do any hishtadlus. There is such a madrega, not doing any hishtadlus, but he was a big Oved Hashem. We're not holding by that. You have to realize who we are and be makim makoimah, but you work on it, and a little bit higher. That's what what do you do in gym? You know, the trainers, the runners, and the high jumpers and like that, right? So they put the bar, right, and you got to jump over the bar, right, the high jump, right. So then after it becomes easy, so they lift it up another half inch, just half an inch. Then it's hard again, right? And then you can do that, and then, right? If you're training with exercises. You don't start off with the 3 kilo, belt with the bars, the weights. You don't start off with 3. You start off with half a kilo, weights. Don't overdo it. And every couple of weeks, then you graduate to 1 kilo and 1.5 kilo, and then 2 kilo, and then 3 kilo. But don't go fast, my little kids, the little grandchildren, they come in. I have a set of hand weights in my house, so they want to try out the thing. They go straight for the 3 kilo ones, the big ones, This little tiny little kid trying to lift this thing up. I said, "Why don't you take that one?" No. Go for the little ones and slowly build up. Slowly build up your energy, your Bitachon energy. It's building. It's like building muscles. You're building your Bitachon muscles. But he says, but we have the power of changing the situation around you, whether it's a business situation, whether it's a neighborhood situation, right? Whatever the situation is, can't pay the mortgage. Bitachon will change things. That's a very, very big chiddush. Bitachon has the ability to change things. Now I'll tell you a bigger chiddush. I have to stop. But there's a Shomer Amunim. Shomer Amunim brings down by Chizkiyahu HaMelech. Chizkiyahu HaMelech was on his deathbed, and he was dying. And Yeshaya Navi came and says, "I got a nevuah. This is it. Make a will, and it's over. There's a gezerah, and it's over." He didn't get married. He was afraid he was going to have menashe. He saw that he was going to have menashe, and therefore he didn't want to get married. It's a gezerah on you. You're cutting off the line from David HaMelech, the Davidic line. You're dying. It says, "Shtok. I'm not going to listen to your nevius. Kach Mukublani from Avi, my great grandfather, David HaMelech, Afilu Cherev." They got the axe and it's laying on your neck. Never take your mind off Rachamim. Al yimna atzma min Rachamim. Don't give up on Rachamim. So the Shomer Amunim asked, and then he davened, and Kitzur, he lived another 15 years, and he had Menashe anyway, he ruined everything until Yoshio came, his grandson. But he lived another 15 years. But he's a Nevi'as, and he said Shtok. So Shomer Amunim asked the Kasha, what do you mean, Al Yimna es Asum min Rachamim? Al Yimna es Asum min Vakoshis Rachamim. So he says, no, there's a place called Rachamim. Don't keep yourself back from allowing the Rachamim to pour down. Because Baruch Hu is the Makor of Rachamim. He says, there's a school. This is the Baal Shem. I've never seen this by the Litvaks, but this is about
Yutes Kislev. Yeah. We got it.
Wait. That's the Rebbe. That's the Rebbe.
Oh, yeah, I know you were going to give out today. I knew it. I had a feeling.
That's the I'm not getting involved because it's a dangerous machlokes because Rav Victor Miller and Rav Shach. Rav Shach had his opinion about the Rebbe. Rav Victor Miller held he was a gadol ador.
Nothing on the Alter Rebbe.
We're talking about Alter Rebbe. Today's Alter Rebbe.
Alter Rebbe is for sure.
Today's
Rosh
Hashanah.
Oh. Yeah, the Alter. Anyway, but I don't want to get involved in politics. But the Baal Shem, he says, if you find yourself in a tough spot, don't daven. Work only on Bitachon. What does that mean? Don't daven. Just work on Bitachon. When you daven, there's a little bit there that said, I did it. A little, because I daven, therefore everything worked out. The situation is so bad, even my davening won't work. If I'm totally relying on Kodesh Baruch Hu, I can't even daven, I can't pray, I can't do everything. And work on Bitachon and be Misoyer the Rachamim, and then the Shomer Amunim says, I got to stop now. The Shomer, they're going to walk in here for Mincha, and Shomer Amunim says,
You go down.
the Shomer Amunim says that even if you're not Roy, who are you? You little pipsqueak, who do you think you are? When's the last time you had kavanah and davening? And all the mess ups you had on Shabbos, Come on, who are you? No, even if you're not Roy, but you had Bitachon, because Baruch is going to have Rachamim on you, and he's going to make sure it works out okay. Hashlech al Hashem Yehovcha v'hu Yechalka lecha.